ESPN's Pete Thamel. Do we have this on audio, by the way, or am I just passing this along?
Pass it along.
All right. In a podcast, ranked the expansion candidates in the ACC. So basically, if you're the mythical, big bad wolf, meaning the SEC or the Big Ten, if the ACC started to crumble or showed some kind of vulnerability, or somebody was able to point out their grant of rights wasn't as ironclad as they thought, who would you call first? Who's the first draft pick of ACC teams you'd want? And I thought it was very interesting. UNC, number 1. Virginia, number 2. Followed by a tie of Florida State and Clemson. North Carolina has way more power and control over the future of the ACC than a casual sports fan might assume. Now, it's not necessarily a compliment. Okay, right? Because it's a compliment to say you're the most desirable, right? You're the number 1 draft pick. You're the best looking person at the bar, right? You are the most desirable. That sounds like a compliment. Brian Murphy of WRAL, right? Sports investigative reporter. We have him on the show often. Some of his analysis was interesting. He thinks UNC might be number 1. Because if you put yourself in the shoes of a mid-tier or below SEC or Big Ten program, why would you want to bring in additional football powers to push you further down the hierarchy in your conference? So if you are Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, I'm not going to just be mean and pick Michigan State, Northwestern, Indiana, Illinois. Like if you are a middle of the road to below Big Ten or SEC school, why would you want Clemson? Why would you want Florida State, teams that are competing for national championships in recent years, and going, you know what? I'm tired of finishing 9th in the SEC. I want to finish 11th.
Florida doesn't want Florida State in there.
For recruiting reasons also.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of dominate the SEC in this area. Actually, let's be real. Georgia does, but we're second. Recruiting down in this part of the country. It might be more attractive to those schools that we've been describing to go grab a mid-tier football school that helps, expand your footprint, right? North Carolina is not represented, and Virginia is not represented in those two conferences. Can help your basketball, your academic profile.
Yep.
And in the words of Brian Murphy, don't necessarily hurt your chances of finishing 4th or in line for a top 12 playoff spot or getting bowl eligible. It's not a bad thought, right?
Yeah.
Either way, right? I don't care why you think I'm powerful. I just care about what I'm going to do with the power, right? If I'm North Carolina, I don't care why I'm the first draft pick. Now that I'm the first draft pick, I want to throw my weight around. I might Eli Manning this bad boy, right? I might just start making reckless demands because my dad played in the NFL. The team that opens the door out of the ACC, whoever it ends up being, if it ends up happening, it's not a definite that it will. If it ends up happening, the team that opens the door out of the ACC will be responsible for the death of the ACC as we know it. The hardest thing to do is going to be to knock down the wall and get out. Right? Florida State obviously wants to. They said as much after that Board of Trustees meeting in the offseason. They want out, but they can't get out. UNC might be the team that has the most power to make it happen. If they're the number 1 draft pick, they are the team that the SEC and or Big Ten would help the most to get out, right? They're the ones that would be like, oh, yeah, we'll cover some exit fees or whatever it ends up being, or you have to have those conversations. If North Carolina is the number 1 draft pick, North Carolina needs the most self-control. They need the most self-control because there's going to be temptation. The money, the media buyouts, that first 12-team college football playoff next year is going to have like 5 SEC teams.
Probably.
And if you are an ACC team with the power to get out, it's going to take so much self-restraint to say, no, we can build, we can catch them, we can get there, rather than saying, I don't know if we can beat them, but I can join them. Deuces. Like, it's going to take so much self-restraint, and it's going to take so much caring about the ACC. You're going to have to be invested in the future of it. So I like to say we start campaigns early, right? Peyton Wilson, I thought he should have been the National Defensive Player of the Year. I said it like week 4 and was like, we need to start campaigning now.
Mm-hmm.
Bronco Nagurski Award comes around, he finishes 2nd, and I'm going, we should have started week 3, right? Getting ahead of campaigns, I think, is important. I think we need to start appealing to UNC now, saying just because you have the power doesn't mean you have to use it. Pete Thamel's about as connected as anyone out there in college sports, particularly on the political side, right? Maybe ESPN's Adam Rittenberg or a few others. McMurphy might be a little bit more on like, will this player play today with their pulled hamstring from 2 weeks ago? But Thamel's pretty connected in like this athletic director is thinking this. So if he's ranking who's the most important, who's the most attractive, who's the expansion candidate numero uno, I'm believing him. UNC, please don't leave. And you know what? There's less political pressure for them to be cautious. Because remember when Stanford and Cal and eventually SMU were on the menu for potentially being added to the ACC. At the first couple votes that we heard about, and all of this is, reports from sources and insiders, mostly ESPN.com, but take that for what it is. Most of the first votes we heard, NC State and UNC were together, right? And there was some political pressure for them to look out for each other. Then the last vote, we heard NC State bounced, right? And they separated. And they went from voting with UNC to say no to expansion to voting against UNC and being the swing vote that brought Stanford, Cal, and SMU into the ACC. So now that's one less trusted ally that North Carolina has. There's not going to be as much, and you almost can't have as much political pressure to tell UNC, don't leave, we need you to look out for NC State, because NC State flipped on UNC. And all is fair in love and conference expansion. Right?
Yeah, kind of is.
I mean, it's just, that's how it goes.
But like you said, it makes sense that Carolina would be a top choice because major state university,
brand, yep.
And it's a major brand, like you said. And like you said, overall, for the top-tier programs, it's not really much of sorry, UNC's not a threat to Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State, or
not
Alabama, or LSU.
Presently constructed
as presently as they are. But guess what? You get that basketball boost.
Yep.
That's another team likely in the NCAA tournament for you that has potential and has that pedigree of making long runs. That does boost your conference. It's a big national brand.
Opens up the state of North Carolina also, which they don't have in either of those conferences.
Well, because here's the thing. You already talked about television rights and all that kind of stuff, too. All right, SEC Network can now come into North Carolina and all that, but Big Ten Network can find its way into different markets and that kind of stuff, too.
And
that stuff still matters.
They'd be encroaching on each other's territory a little bit.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to have the Big Ten and the SEC overlapping. Right now, they're kind of separate-ish.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're just going to, meet in like a valley somewhere. It's going to be a very dramatic. It's going to have Wolverines and Crimson Tide. I don't know what a Crimson Tide. They're an elephant, I guess.
Big elephant. It's going to come running at you.
Crimson Tide.
Swinging its trunk.
How'd they decide on an elephant?
I don't know.